Budgeting is pretty hard. It's pretty painful and it takes a lot of work. I like to think of budgeting like some of the strongest guys in the world whenever they lift weights. It took them a long time to get to that point, and there's not a single one who would tell you that it's easy. Whenever I ran through our budgeting process, whether it was at the start of our budgeting process or even now, whenever I set myself with my monthly income to budget, I have no issue using every single dollar and often will have to go back and lower some of the amount of spending categories just to make sure that I have enough money to get the rest of the month. One exercise that I made myself go through, and it took a little bit of thinking, right? Like as you go throughout the years, hopefully your income increases. Well, whenever you think, it's like, how did I spend less money last year in my budget? How did I make that work? I challenge you to do that exercise. Go grab the budget template in my channel description and try and build a budget on $5,000. Hopefully feels relatively easy. Now go do it on $4,500, $4,200. Maybe you get really aggressive. Go $3,000. Most of us have money to budget and operate on a budget less than what we're actually operating on. And that's where the concept of invisible money can come in and help you save so much more money than you think feasible. Now, why is it so important for this invisible money concept to be painless? Well, I want you to be successful, and there's one thing that destroys a good habit more than anything else: frustration. You want to minimize the frustration that you experience in order to be successful. Setting money aside can help you do that because I'm just focused on the money that's coming into me. I'm not worried about, wow, I'm not seeing it grow fast enough. Wow, I'm not saving enough. I just get to focus on the money that I've committed to spend in my budget while this invisible money sits off to the side and it's pain free. Now, you're not just throwing your money in a jar under your bed or in a little piggy bank that you hopefully break into in a year. We're gonna let our money do some things for us. Now I want to share with you a couple of accounts or types of accounts that I like and that I personally put my invisible money into so that it does a little bit more than just sit there. We can actually have the potential to grow that money without even touching it. Before we touch on these really cool accounts that can grow your money without you even having to do anything, let's talk about how we set up invisible money. For those of you that have maybe like a workday portal or an employee service center where you can go manage your paychecks, you should have the option to set up direct deposit. Direct deposit is your company's way to pay you money straight into your bank account without you having to set up in a check. If you get paid in checks or in cash, you can skip on to the next part. But for direct deposits, you're going to go to your company, take your bank account information. You'll need your account number and your routing number. You'll go enter in that information to their system. Now, with Invisible Money, I mentioned needing 2 accounts. So you'll have to do this twice. You will go in first with your Invisible Money account, and you will set the amount of dollars that you want every paycheck going into your Invisible Money account. Secondly, you'll enter your main transacting account, and you will let that catch any money that's left over. So you'll be collecting still your whole paycheck, but your company, your employer, will be sending a certain dollar amount to that invisible money account before it sends you the rest of your paycheck into your main account. If that feels a little too complicated, yeah, don't worry about it. It does take a little bit more steps. If you want it to happen as easy as possible, go into your bank account after opening your invisible money account, and you can set up something called an automatic transfer. And that is where every month your bank will transfer money to a separate bank account. You'll just link those, you'll bring in the routing and account number information into your main bank account and set up that automatic transfer. Now, make sure you're setting that transfer up to be on the same day or a day after your other paycheck gets in from your employer, from your company, so that you're not transferring money out that isn't in yet. Most companies will pay once a month on the first or the last date, on the first date or the 15th date, or every other week. So just make sure you check your employer, your pay stubs, and make sure you're picking the right one for yourself. All right, we're finally at the fun part. Let's go over the 3 different types of ways or places that I believe you should be sending your invisible money to do a little bit more work for you than just sitting there collecting dust. Now, a lot of different places that you can place your money, different bank accounts, have interest. And interest is money that the bank pays you for keeping their money there. Most large banks and most checking accounts will only pay you 0.01% interest or might not pay you any interest at all. But luckily for us, there's been a wave of different banks and financial institutions offering what we call high yield savings account. A high yield savings account is a savings account where they're going to pay you a lot more interest than the rest of the market. Rates right now, late February of 2025, are floating around 4%. You can find some a little higher than 4%. You can find some a little less than 4%. High yield savings accounts function a little bit differently than checking accounts, but they kind of function the same way. The only thing you're not going to have, which you probably don't need for your invisible money accounts, is a debit card that you're going to swipe out of that account, something like a checkbook, which I can't remember the last time that I wrote a check. But the money's going to sit there and grow. I personally use SoFi for my high yield savings account, although I've used Marcus by Goldman Sachs, American Express, Capital One, Ally, and Robinhood Gold. So I'll flash a couple of these up on the screen for you to have links, and I'll make sure I'll include links. It's not always the highest rate that I chase. Sometimes I value the user experience, and that's why I've stuck with SoFi for a good bit of time. A second place you can look to send your money would be to be a brokerage or investing account so that you can start to invest your money in index funds. Now, we're not going to jump into the complexities of evaluating stock, but index funds are a great way to grow your money, grow the value of your dollars if you're willing to take on a little bit more risk. What an index fund is, it's a collection of multiple companies or the holding of multiple different company stocks so that you're not super invested into one company over another, and therefore your gains and losses should be a little bit more consistent. Average stock market returns since the 1950s have been somewhere between 9 and 11%. So knowing that you can put your money in the stock market and anticipate over the long term, somewhere around that range, it's a pretty good option. The last thing that I will share, and full disclosure, I have dabbled with this in the past and don't mess with it anymore, is setting invisible money aside to go into cryptocurrency. Now, this is a little bit edgy, it's a little bit more risky, but there's also a lot of promise in crypto. With this new government administration, it looks like the United States might be a little bit more crypto friendly. So if you just wanted to go ahead and every month put a little bit of money into crypto and hope that it grows, you can. And crypto is going to function very similarly. You could have something like Coinbase and get your coin wallet up and active. If you don't necessarily want to go through the process of owning cryptocurrencies, most investment platforms like SoFi and Robinhood will let you trade crypto without having to open a coin wallet and own it. So do what's best for you. With the higher levels of risk come the higher levels of reward. So for those of you who are willing to gamble a little bit, might be interested in cryptocurrency. For those starting off, I would definitely encourage a high yield savings account or a brokerage account and start investing in index funds. Now that we've thrown out those 3 ways that we can go start an invisible money account, I want to offer one last piece of advice. Whenever you open this account, don't download the app on your phone. Manage it from a computer. The worst thing that you can do is constantly be going in and looking and checking and seeing how your money's doing, This money is supposed to be invisible. You kind of want to set it and forget it. And then set yourself reminders every 6 months, every 12 months. Go look at it. My wife and I are saving for a pretty large trip this year to Europe. We've been saving for this trip specifically for about 3 years. If we were to look every month and saw the little chunks that we were taking out, probably would have been frustrating. We probably would have told ourselves, there's no way we can do this. But by using invisible money and taking money out of our paychecks before it hit our budget, spending the money this year has been super easy, and planning has been a breeze because we made those baby steps without realizing it. You can take big chunks off of big saving expenses in the future by using invisible money, and I hope it helps you start saving pain-free.